Hi, I'm Mallie Shansfeld, Editor-in-Chief of Orthodontic Practice US, a MedMark publication. Welcome to a live presentation and question and answer with Dr. John Wise. Dr. Wise explains the benefits of designing and fabricating aligners in his practice as a viable alternative to the major aligner companies. He will share case examples as well. Before we get started, I would like to invite our viewers to use the question box in your control panel to ask any questions, and your questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. And also at the end of the presentation, please stay tuned for a special offer for our attendees, and you will not be sorry that you stayed till the end. I'm pleased to introduce our guest for today, Dr. John Wise. Dr. Wise is a specialty-trained orthodontist with 2 locations in growing suburbs near Dallas. Dr. Wise practiced general dentistry for 3 years prior to completing his orthodontic residency program at the University of Texas Health Science Center in Houston, Texas in 1992. He practices orthodontics exclusively with his partner, Dr. Jessica Lee, and his team. Dr. Wise entered the world of virtual orthodontics in 2008, and when he began utilizing CBCT scanning and Suresmile, he hasn't looked back. Ms. Tammy Long became his technology coordinator in 2009, possibly the first such designation in the orthodontic community. I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Wise and turn the presentation over to him.
Molly, thanks very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and share some of the information about making clear aligners in your own office. And it's an exciting time in our field. So I'm gonna take my webcam off so you don't have to look at me quite so much, and we'll get started with the presentation. Again, thank you to Orthodontic Practice US for putting this all together. So yeah, so my presentation is titled In Your Office, Clear Aligners, and I've come up with the fun acronym IYO, which is a little bit hard to say, but it's a fun thing. And I feel like in our community, in the orthodontic world, we really need to separate ourselves from general practitioners and also the do-it-yourself consumers out there and various companies that are going direct to consumer. But we really need to harvest the technology that's available out there, and of course, even more importantly, we need to know how to use the technology to our advantage. Like anything else in our field, technology is advancing rapidly, and orthodontists, we need to keep up. And if we don't, other companies that are primarily driven by profit, or perhaps companies that want to completely cut the orthodontist out of the treatment business, will win. And so it's our job to stay current, and we've really worked hard in our practice to do that, and I wanted to share some of that information with you today. So along the way, wanted to mention Suresmile by Orimetrics. So they were the giant leap that we made back in 2008 when we stopped doing things the way we were all taught in orthodontic school and started taking advantage of all the 3D technology that was out there, and they've been a tremendous asset throughout my time. It was obviously, for myself and my entire team, was quite a learning curve, but it was softened a lot by the great support that Orimetrics was able to supply for us with training, both in office and distant, and so it's been a really great journey, and we really feel like we have excellent control as Orimetrics has added aligner design and manufacture to their protocols. They've helped us learn that and learn the software as it's improved over the years. So you do get more control when you can run the software yourself, and both on the design of the treatment, the actual aligner itself, and of course the manufacture of the aligners, which we do in our office. There's a tremendously lower cost to doing aligner treatment in this way, and for a lot of people I think that might be the stepping stone that might push them over the edge to do this, but for us the cost is almost an additional thing, but the control and the quality results that we can get really for us is what makes the difference. There's a lot of real benefits to doing the aligners in your own office that we'll get in today. So of course, orthodontists, as I mentioned earlier, are sort of in the crosshairs, and we put a few of the companies up there on the screen. who are trying to skip the doctor completely and just go direct to the consumer. And because we all know how easy it is to straighten teeth, right? Unfortunately, the consumer, they're looking for convenience. They're looking for maybe something easier than it needs to be. We had a great conversation about this recently with a patient who was speaking about this trend, and they've seen some of the advertisements that are going on, and of course, a great metaphor or comparison might be getting your hair cut or getting your hair styled. Let's say any one of us could style their own hair. If the ladies, of course, you guys really like to do it upright, thank goodness. And yeah, but do you want to cut your own hair, or do you want to have a stylist do it? You could cut your own hair, but I think better would be to have a stylist do it for you, and that's our job. We've got to make sure the consumer knows that there really needs to be a doctor involved in your treatment. And if we can start competing in other ways and keep that part of this alive, we're in a much better place. So Smile Direct Club is the main one that, at least in our neck of the woods, that people know about, but there's a lot of copycats out there. And of course, their aligner results are, I believe, inferior to what you can do when there's a doctor directly involved. And of course, they're delivering this at a fraction of the price. So pretty much for what a full case fee cost, the orthodontist, they can do the entire treatment by mailing the aligners and the impression materials directly to the patient's home. So they've cut the doctor out of the equation, and it's all do-it-yourself, literally, for the consumer. So they're taking most of the time they're taking impressions at home, although I believe they're now doing some pop-up, like the picture shows, some scanning centers where you can pop in and get a quick scan. But majority of the treatment is done with at-home impressions. And we used to take PVS impressions for our aligner treatment, and that was hard for us to do. I can't imagine the quality of impressions that they're getting from when the consumer's doing it in their bathroom with no experience. The software that they use is nowhere near as robust as what Suresmile, Elemetrics, or Orometrics can offer. And so right away, the two most important things in the clear aligner process are tremendously inferior: the impressions and the software. And of course, there's no face-to-face guidance. There's no doctor involvement. Now, Invisalign, interestingly, owns 19% of Smile Direct Club, and they made quite the effort to stay connected to this growing industry. And why is Invisalign so interested in this company? And of course, everybody knows the answer. It's all about money. There's a huge market for these simple aligner cases that are out there, and we speak just in the U.S. alone. There may be 30 to 40 million patients out there that could benefit from some very simple aligner type movements. So I think about this market in our area as being 20, 30 something year old patients who had braces when they were kids, chose not to wear their retainers, or just didn't do whatever follow-up they needed to do, and their teeth moved. But as part of that millennial generation, they want what they want, and they want it now, and they want to get their teeth straightened again. But maybe they're too busy, or think they're too busy, to visit one of us, and they answer the ad, respond online, and get it done that way. I feel like it's our job to become expert at treating these simple cases, both simple for us and making it efficient, and most importantly, get great results. The results, I believe, will drive the industry to hopefully move away from the do-it-yourself option, and creating the aligners in your own office will be the way to go, and then orthodontists will get the chance to cut out those other companies. So won't that be fun? So that'll be good for us. Now the neat thing is we can do these cases a lot less expensively, and unfortunately so can Smile Direct Club and their copycats. So the tools for success for in your office clear aligners. It's a pretty short list, and most of us already have a lot of these things in our office. If you've made the leap to intraoral scanning technology, there are many really good quality scanners out there that can perform a full full mouth scan in less than 5 minutes. You've got a really fast technician. It can be 2 or 3 minutes. There's a little setup involved, but not much different from taking an alginate impression, but tremendously different from taking a PVS impression. So intraoral scanning technology is really, really cool, and it works great, and we wouldn't go back. We love it. The software that we've chosen to use for this is the Suresmile Elemetric software that allows us to do all the movements ourselves, and we can start from the very beginning, moving the teeth. You really gain a tremendous amount of knowledge about the case and about how teeth move with the clear aligners when you're the technician or when you're running the software from the beginning. Teeth move with aligners very differently than how they move with braces, and so for those of us that have treated thousands and thousands of braces cases and maybe hundreds and hundreds of clear aligner cases, the learning curve becomes much steeper for us the more control over it that we have, instead of just being mailed a bunch of aligners that somebody else created. So a tremendous advantage as a tool for success to having the software in your office and becoming expert at how to use it. 3D printing is the other tool for success that you'll need, and you don't need to 3D print yourself. It's kind of fun once you get into it. We've done that. We've been 3D printing some of our own models for quite a while, and you can do a lot of cool stuff with the 3D printed models. But you really just need to have access to 3D printing, and thankfully Orimetrics Suresmile offers a 3D printing solution. But there's many industrial labs out there that could 3D print the models for you, or you could purchase a $3,500 printer next Tuesday and have it installed in your practice and be up and running with 3D printing by Wednesday. It's getting that simple. The aligner fabrication is something, again, that we all probably already do. You may not be making aligners so much as you're making retainers. The picture that shows on the screen there is the Drufomat machine that allows you to have pressure down onto the 3D printed model, which really makes those aligners fit beautifully. But there's multiple methods of fabricating the aligners with the machine that you can have right in your own office. And this is, again, most of us already have this machine and all the tools for that available today. Clinical efficiency is the other thing that's a tool for success. And those of us who've been, whether attendees or speaking on behalf of aligner companies, there's a real need for clinical efficiency so that your team and your staff, from the front desk to your treatment coordinators to the doctor and the clinical assistants, we really all need to be on the same page. And as these patients come into the office for treatment, for follow-up visits, we all need to know what's going on and have excellent communication. And that's done in our office very easily, just notes that are being made along the way, and we're able to keep track of these aligner cases with minimal difficulty. And the communication both between the staff and the patients, or the doctor and the staff, or the doctor and the patient, is all very consistent, and we have a very simple protocol for delivering these aligners that's very repetitive, and our clinical team is on top of it from beginning to end. But the most important tool for success is going to be the orthodontist. And so thank goodness, our orthodontist brains are different from any other types of brains out there. And we've got the ability to see teeth moving in our mind's eye, and we can do that with great consistency and excellence. But our education, of course, our clinical knowledge, our skilled experience, these things are all wonderful tools for success, and really the most important tool, because machines don't yet have the knowledge to do this for us, and we want to be able to harvest our orthodontic brain. So important. And I imagine most of us with excellent staff like Tammy Long in my office, you probably have in your own practice folks that you can identify who can be a technology coordinator for you if you don't already have one, and that way it can take a lot of the time off of you, and you can literally do these clear aligner cases with very little time. And we can, if folks have questions about that, we can get into that a little bit later. But the orthodontist time on these cases is pretty limited, so that's good. These third-party companies that are out there, and we all know which ones they are, but the aligner sequencing it's all pretty much computerized, and they do their best to make it work. But a lot of times they just divide up, the number of aligners from beginning to end, and based on the movements, and it's very cookie-cutter style. In corporate filings and whatnot, over 50% of cases submitted to Align Technology, they're approved by the doctor with no input. They don't ask the technicians to make any changes at all. And of course, many of these cases are coming from the general practitioners who are attempting to do clear aligners. But that means that there's a lot of there's a lot of bad clear aligner treatment going on out there, and we can do it better when we do it in our office. And you've got a tremendous amount of doctor input instead of zero, which is a majority of clear aligners. So in your office, aligners allows you to have patient-to-patient customization. So every patient is unique. You can do easy cases, hard cases, upper only, lower only, whatever you want. You can overcome various obstacles that might come up. And I've got a really fun case that we're going to go through here in just a minute that was a very unique obstacle that we were able to overcome with just a little bit of imagination, which is so important in this world. Just like with wires and pliers and brackets and that, you know that there's a few times in your treatment cycles where you have to imagine or dream up some pretty special wire configurations to get a tooth to move the way you want it to move. And when you're doing in your office clear aligners, the whole world of that comes back to you, but this time in clear aligner fashion. So there's combination treatments that you can do, perhaps that include braces with aligners, or just many, many different things that you can do with the aligners if you just use your imagination. And that's a wonderful thing, and it will make you enjoy clear aligner treatment. There's some major advantages of the in your office aligners that we'll go through today. The clinical efficiency we've already touched on a little bit. I feel like you can be much more efficient when you do this in your own office. The dramatic cost reduction, and I'll give you some specifics on that here in just a minute. Expanded case selection. So there's a lot of cases that become eligible for clear aligner treatment, not because they're harder, but just because it makes sense to treat some of these cases with clear aligners instead of other alternatives. You can have a better patient experience, and that is without question, certainly in my practice, the patient experience, since we're making the aligners in our own office, is dramatically better. Convenience for the patient is enhanced many times. You can vary the aligner material. So this is something that we're just starting to get into for the last few months in our practice. But since you have the models physically available to you, there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do with different material, different trimming, a lot of things like that we'll get into. So on the clinical efficiency side, we can have these things constructed and ready for delivery in less than 2 weeks. And if everybody's on board and know that we've got a case that we want to speed up, I mean, you can have it in less than a week without any problem. So almost as fast as being able to put on a set of braces. You can have the aligners up and running within just a few days. So all good clear aligner cases start with a very good intraoral scan. We like to have a panoramic x-ray, and the photographs are invaluable as well to allow you to see what you want to see at the beginning and then start the treatment. So we typically don't require a cephalometric x-ray, but if you want to take a cephalometric x-ray, go for it. I mean, you can take whatever images that you want, but in our office, this is kind of the minimum that we would want. You upload the records to the Suresmile or Elementix platform the same day that you take them. It's all done electronically, very easy. In our office, our technology coordinator handles that. So up till this point, there has still been no doctor activity at all. You'll have a 1 to 2 day turnaround, and what's going to come back to you is what's called a diagnostic model from Suresmile, and that's what's going to allow you to actually do the virtual tooth movement. So there's a few times where we'll get the diagnostic model the same day, and so they're able to get this diagnostic diagnostic model back in your hands very quickly so that your technology coordinator can start the virtual tooth movement and start making things happen on the computer screen. Once you finalize all the movements and all the staging, which is the part where the doctor would become involved, you create a STL file. The STL files are very similar to saving or creating a photographic, a JPEG image or anything like that. There's nothing magical about it. The Suresmile software, with the click of a button, will create a file. You save it, send it to the printer, print it, and you've just made a 3D model. And so in addition to that method that I just quickly described, the Suresmile folks can also just take the STL files that are embedded in their system and make the 3D models that way. Model printing takes a little bit of time, depending on how fast. If you have your own printer, some of these printers can whip out a model in about an hour. Others, depending on the type of printer, it might take 3 to 4 hours to print a model. And of course, you can load multiple models on one print run. So when I say a model, we've got a machine, the Form Labs 2 3D printer can handle 8 models at a time. So within about 3 hours, you'll have 8 models, which makes it where you can get rocking and rolling with the aligners very quickly. And of course, the aligner fabrication, literally takes minutes. Once you have the 3D model, and you see on the screen there, we've got a 3D model, sitting on the Drufamat machine. It's very mechanized in the sense that the machine knows what type of plastic you have, how long it's going to need to heat up, and then you launch the thing, and it makes a beautiful, really well-fitting aligner. So all this is done in preparation so that you can deliver these aligners in a timely fashion to your patient. And along the way, as you're doing the virtual tooth movement, it's really important that you make some good notes. You and your technology coordinator make good clinical notes so that you know when to do your IPR, or when to ask the patient to do various things with the aligners, whether it's rubber bands or just what, and have a standardized delivery method that your clinical team can follow. I know a lot of offices will standardize the number of aligners that they want to deliver. They always deliver, an 8-week supply of aligners. Or I heard recently a doctor, a big Invisalign user, is routinely delivering 10 aligners at a time. Whatever you like, make it as routine as you possibly can. And the delivery method is something that you want your assistants very comfortable with, and a little bit of verbal coaching, and they'll have this figured out. We really like to check the contacts of all of our aligner patients. Are the contacts heavy, light, or open? And that designation, heavy, light, or open, designation is important to avoid collisions as the teeth move. And the clinical team can determine that just by flossing the patient's teeth. And if we know there's a heavy contact, we'll know what to do. Same thing with open contacts, etc. So the clinical efficiency of in-your-office aligners is not dramatically different than what you're currently doing, other than the speed of turnaround and having the ability to make additional aligners within minutes that you can have ready for your patient. So you've got the models. So I just alluded to the fact that you can make these just within minutes. You'll store the models there in your office, and if you lose an aligner, dog eats the aligner, you just want to make a new aligner for whatever reason, you can go back to the appropriate model, which are well labeled, and make a new one. It's very, very easy. It takes less than 5 minutes to make an aligner, trim it up, polish it, make it ready to go, and you're all set. Making adjustments to these models, if you've got some type of complex movement that you want to accomplish, again, you've got the models, you know what's going to happen when you make a clear aligner from the model, so you can adjust the model, change it yourself. You can put in little power ridges, things like that, to help with rotations, help with torque, all sorts of possibilities. Again, with the models in your own hands, you have the ability to make all sorts of adjustments. You can trim the aligners differently. So maybe you don't want the scallop trimming, so trim it the way you want it. If you've got a patient that has very long clinical crowns, or the opposite, someone with short clinical crowns, people with abfractions, people with sensitive teeth, on and on, you can change the way you trim the aligners. You can just direct your lab technician on that, and they'll adjust the trimming to meet whatever clinical needs you have. So it's a very nice addition to be able to change the way you trim the aligners depending on the situation. And so the photographs are coming up to show a couple of steps. We use scissors to take them off, a simple little polishing wheel. Again, these are things that most of us already have in our office that are ready to use tomorrow. There's a dramatic cost reduction in this, and I'll go through some typical costs associated with various cases. I've got this graphic up on the screen at the bottom that was provided, and I want to kind of bring your attention over here on the side, and we'll get to some of this a little bit later. But you know, I said this is a Suresmile slide, a kind of a flow, if you will. But you can order printed models or export these files. Down here you can receive the printed models, or you can send them to a third party. You can create the aligners or receive the aligners from a third party. So the word I'm pointing out there is or. So the control is in your hands, doctor. So you can do is take as big a bite out of this apple as you want. And if you want to do it all from beginning to end, which is the method that we've chosen, we didn't start that way. We started with a smaller bite. But again, Suresmile, ORmetrics, Elemetrics, they give you the flexibility to take a big or little bite as you want out of the technology apple as you're making these clear liners. As you become more and more confident in what you're doing, then you can do more if you want to do more. So it's all up to you. So a diagnostic model, so that's kind of the beginning for you. You've got to have your diagnostic model so that you can start moving the teeth. So that's the only cost that you're going to have with Suresmile. So there's no $1,900 fee. You have a $45 cost for a diagnostic model. And of course these prices change, but they've been on this $45 price for quite a while. So it's been nice. If you want to have a model printed, we've used various sources for printing models. You can print them yourself. Of course, there's a cost associated with that. You've got to own the machine. You've got to buy the resin. You've got to have somebody to man that. So currently, I can get models printed for $10, and Suresmile does that for us. They provide that. But if we need something quicker than that, we've got access to a 3D printer that we can get a model much quicker than that. But when you start adding up all the costs, it's pretty hard to compete with the Suresmile price of $10. And they produce a beautiful 3D model that's ready to go to work. The aligner fabrication, if you add up the cost of the materials, your technician's time, each aligner fabrication from the 3D printed model will cost you about $6. Our technology coordinator's time and some of the other technicians' time, if we add that all up, it'll cost, depending on how many aligners you're making, you're going to spend anywhere from $50 to $80 per case in your manpower cost, if you will. So that's a really nice cost reduction compared to the third-party companies. So we do a lot of these simple cases, 10 aligners or fewer. These are the cases where little Johnny comes home from college and his mom notices that the little space came back, or he's got some crowding or whatever. So these are post braces, no retainer wear, simple cases. So a 10 aligner case your cost is going to be about $255. And so that's you can do a really nice case. You can charge the patient whatever you want, but your cost is going to be about $255. If you've got a little harder case, say 20 aligners, so we're starting to get into the realm of kind of a full-blown Invisalign case up in that range, you're going to spend a little more, about $425. So you've already paid for the cost of the training for Suresmile with your first two cases. You do one more case, a bigger case, you're going to spend about $765. Now, if you've done these three cases, you've just saved enough money to buy your own 3D printer. So you get the idea. So very quickly, if you're comparing prices to Invisalign, you can save a tremendous amount of money. And again, that's wonderful and that's great. And for many people, that will be the launching pad to get them into this. But the other benefits that I've already highlighted were enough for us, and this was just a nice bonus. And believe me, it's a nice bonus. And the beautiful part about this is this gives us the capability of lowering the price that we charge the patient. Not that you have to do that, but if you want to do a really simple case and do it very cost effectively, your patients really appreciate that. And now you're competing on a level playing field with the Smile Direct clubs of the world, who charge around $1,800 for a full case. Well, I could beat that cost if I wanted to, based on lab costs. So I could easily beat that cost for these simple cases. We do that routinely. So I encourage you to try to keep the downward pressure on the price that you charge the patients, so that we, the doctors, the orthodontists, can be the ones who are doing a vast majority of these clear aligner cases. You have expanded case selection with in your office clear aligners, and a lot of that is because you have control of the models and the liner trimming and things like that. But anything from a simple case, like we just mentioned, to as complex as you want to make it, you can do all of these cases with in your office clear aligners. With, of course, all the limitations of clear aligner tooth movement apply. There's, we don't suspend the laws of physics within your office aligners, but because you have the models and you have the ability to make adjustments on the fly, you can really expand your case selection. You can do just upper, you can do just lower, you can do upper and lower. You can do combination treatments. We've got a lot of patients that we all know there's certain movements that you really, really want to have braces. So we propose that to the patient. Hey, you can wear braces for 3 months, 6 months, some small amount of time. We can finish you up with a few aligners, and they love that. I can wear braces for 4 months, no problem. Some clear braces, maybe some lingual braces. Then we can do a combo treatment for you. The retreats after minor shifting. This can be days of shifting, or weeks, or months, or years. We talked about the custom trimming. You can add auxiliaries to the in your office aligners with virtually no problem at all. And there's a lot of, again, this goes back to using your imagination to have to expand your case selection. And the longer you do these in your office, you'll start realizing all the various cases that you can do. So here's a fun case that we finished up recently. So I wanted to, it's always nice for these present webinars to have an actual patient that was treated with the technology that we're showing. And this is Jody. And Jody was an acquaintance of mine through our church. And she had had orthodontic treatment when she was younger. As you can see in the photograph, she's had a little relapse. And so we got to meet her and talk to her a little bit about her situation. And I don't know what that interincisal angle is, but it's pretty big. So it's way up there. So as you can see, she's a challenging case. And of course, her dentist was talking to her a little bit about fixing her up and doing some aligner treatment. She had inquired recently at her dentist about doing some clear aligner treatment with her general dentist. He sent over this panoramic x-ray for us. Excuse me. And you can see some issues with root resorption and different things that she's got. So I've listed some of her challenges here. Jody uses a CPAP machine for obstructive sleep apnea. And my feeling was that was probably going to be incompatible with braces. And so that was going to be an issue because she has to wear the CPAP machine. Otherwise, she won't be able to combat her OSA. And she had that extreme interincisal angle, which was incompatible with the third-party aligners, because there's no way to get draw when you have as much flare as she's got. And so I'm looking at that, and the general dentist came in with some input, and he said to Jody, hey, you can't do Invisalign. You need to go see an orthodontist so you can get braces. And of course, when she gets to me, I said, hey, we can't do braces because of your CPAP machine. Let's do clear aligners. She's got the gingival recession. She's got root resorption, obviously, some calculus buildup, etc. Here's her digital model number 1. So this is time point 0 with her teeth, and you can really get a good look at things. So this is the image that comes out of the Suresmile software that we've put into a slide for you. And these are obviously static images, but in the 3D software you're able to move these around and look at this to your heart's desire. You can do as much of that, much or little of that as you want. And then we simulated the ideal result, and this is what we got. So basically we just detorqued all those teeth, closed up the spaces, and there she is. And isn't that wonderful? We can do anything on the computer. We can change teeth in any number of ways, but you have to be able to do that clinically. And so so that's where the orthodontist brain comes in. And here Jody is, a few aligners in, and because of her severe interincisal angle and the lack of draw, we trimmed her aligners very, very short. And I placed, just in the office, just freehand, I placed these little attachments on her teeth, and that was designed for a rubber band or an elastic to run from the clear attachment over here, and she was stretching the rubber band across from cuspid to cuspid, and the aligner was holding the posterior segment, and all we were trying to do was detorque these teeth down into the aligner so that they kind of fit in the trimmed aligner. We weren't looking for perfect fit. We knew that we were going to get to a certain point and then do a rescan for her, which is what's coming up next. The lower, we don't have to have any of those types of additional things on the teeth, and so she's tracking along pretty nicely with the lower. And that's where Jody was after a few weeks of treatment. And so that was after 3 upper and 8 lower aligners, and we kind of know, hey, this is probably about all we're going to get. And so we stopped at this point and we took a new scan. So this is another $45 investment with the Suresmile folks. And we're able to take a quick scan, reload it back into the software, and now we're going to start our movements from this point forward. We already have our final position of the teeth, so we can rapidly get to that, but we're starting from a different time point. So this is a rebooting, so to speak, of the clear aligner case, which we've all done many times. And this is the new movement, virtually straight, as the name that we have for it in our office, the VS, we call virtually straight. And here's kind of where we're going. So we start a new process of making aligners to fit this simulation. And I kind of fast forward to the end here. But this is Jody towards the end of her treatment, and as you can see, the aligners have tracked along beautifully, and we've got all those spaces closed and detorqued the teeth. It's always fun to see the soft tissue benefits that these patients get when they suddenly become aware of what's going on with their teeth. And she's got a dramatic improvement. No periodontal treatment was done other than just having her teeth cleaned. I think she was going in every 3 or 4 months to have her teeth cleaned, and the teeth were moving. And what a great result for Jody. And she's extremely pleased with what she's got. As you can see, I continued to trim those aligners a little bit lower. I don't have the scalping, again, just for her convenience, getting those things in and out and keeping her gums healthy and happy. And again, that custom trimming is one of the neat things about Jody's case, and the in your office aligners that was allowed us to do that. So here's Jody now with her nice big smile. You can actually see her teeth. We knew this was not going to be a board case that we'd submit to the ABO, but I can say with all sincerity that Jody and I are very, very happy with these results, certainly based on where she started. So let me back up to that one a little bit for you. So she's continued to wear these aligners. She was very meticulous. She's an engineer, so she took my directions very, very well. We got all those spaces closed, and we're actually able to make the retainers for her in such a way that it continues to apply just a little bit of pressure to maintain that space closure, which is a nice thing. This is a nice little review. And so scan 1 was December 2015. Scan 2 was about 6 months later. And we took 21 upper, 19 lower aligners on that reboot. And then we did a final space closure aligner / retainer made out of a very durable material. She had 28 upper, 28 lower aligners in 18 months total time. Here's a side-by-side view of Jody, and again, about 18 months from here to there, and extremely happy lady. Close-ups of the before and after. Some really amazing soft tissue changes for Jody, and she did great. So the better patient experience. I've said it a few times, you have the models. So I have to say that most of the improvement in the patient experience, spins off of that. And you've got the ability to replace a lost or broken aligner literally within minutes. At the end of treatment, we typically give the patient their models, their final model, and they can use that for a new retainer or aligner if they need it for as long as they want. These 3D printed models last probably longer than all of us who are concerned about the environment want to know, but they're going to be around for a long, long time. You can make multiple aligners from the same model. I mean, over and over and over, you can make aligners from these things without any damage. If you're somewhat careful when you take the aligners off, no big deal. You can trim these things in a custom fashion to help the patient during the process. They're easily remade. The retainers are. We just mentioned giving the models. You can make adjustments to the models to help you with difficult, complex movements. You can make multiple aligners from the same model. So helpful, so helpful. We started in the last several months experimenting further. Again, we're using our imagination. Been doing some reading in various journals where they're testing various materials, and we've been spoon-fed the idea that XYZ company's plastic is the best plastic, and hey, maybe it is. But you know what? There's a lot of plastics out there, and we can vary the aligner material just like you change your wires. Do you want to use a copper night tie, or do you want to use a regular night tie, or stainless steel, or beta titanium? So how about change the aligner material? So you can vary the material as much as you want. So you can use thicker, thinner, stronger, lighter, more flexible. Someday we'll probably come up with colored aligners if the patients want to have some sparkle in there. And the sky's the limit on this stuff. You can vary the thickness and the stiffness of the material. We've noticed, as I'm sure all of you, when a patient wears an aligner or perhaps a retainer and their teeth are crooked, the material's going to distort. That's kind of how it works. Well, sometimes they distort too much and then they stop working. Maybe the patient stopped and then started wearing them. That happens in my practice. Give them a new one. Give them a fresh aligner. Just get them going. Give them what they want. And the fresh aligner can be made again. Your technician, your clinical assistant walks back to your lab within a few minutes. You've got a brand new aligner, and the patient absolutely loves this. You don't have to order it from some third party and get it back weeks later. We were using right now the ESSIX plastic, and what we're doing is we do 2 aligners per model. So a model for us is a stage, and we do 2 aligners per stage or per model. And the first aligner, or the 3rd or the 5th or the 7th, will be made out of the 040 ACE material, which is a nice, very durable but also flexible material, and it works really well. And before we use the 030 ACE, and it works very well too. We like the 040 a little better. We've been using it more recently because it seems to be a little bit more durable and doesn't distort quite as easily. A little tighter, but no big deal. And then for the even aligners, 2468, we switched to the 035 ESSIX Plus material, which is extremely durable. It's stiffer, but it's made from the same model or the same stage. So the aligner is virtually identical. We just use a different plastic. And so the patients can tell the difference. When I first started doing this, I didn't know, which of these was going to be the most uncomfortable for the patient. Was it going to be when they switched to the stiffer material, or was it going to be when they switched to a new stage? And based on my inquiries, it's the odd numbers, the 1, 3, 5, and 7 are the ones that are most uncomfortable to the patient. So just like now, when you switch to a new aligner or a new stage, that's the one that's going to feel the tightest. That's what we've seen anecdotally, at least. And yeah, there's more ideas coming on this. So there's a lot of plastics out there, and again, sky's the limit on what we can do with the variation on the materials. So artificial intelligence is not ready for aligners, not yet. So IBM Watson, you know, I know Invisalign has some time reserved on Watson for the future, but it's not ready for that yet. So there's still going to be a lot of human involvement in creating these aligners, and computers are asked to stage aligners with third-party companies, and the complexity of many of these cases is beyond the capability of what a computer can do. And so there can be a tremendous amount of efficiencies obtained when there's a human involved, especially a human orthodontist or an experienced orthodontic technician that knows how teeth move. So that's great. So the third-party companies have been offering us unlimited aligners for all this time. You can order as many aligners as you want from these various companies with no financial disincentive. And I believe in some ways that's kind of gotten the profession spoiled. And you know, hey, I can just double the number of aligners and just slow things down. Wasn't that great? But you just, you know, doubled the amount of time for your patient, perhaps. But we've kind of become spoiled, and let's engage our brains a little bit more, and maybe we can cut down the number of stages or the number of aligners that are necessary to treat various cases. And I'm certain that that's going to be occurring. So I'm getting into the section now of the webinar where we're going to be showing a lot of slides of the Suresmile software. And I want to be clear, I'm not trying to teach anyone how to use the Suresmile software. That'll come once you implement it in your own practice. But what is going to happen is I would just want to highlight some of the features just so that you'll be comfortable to know that you've got a lot of excellent technology at work for you, and you can do these movements very efficiently with more control than anybody else. And so it's a wonderful thing. So we've got staged models, single stage models, multi-stage, incremental, cumulative. So all that means is these are various ways for you to look at the models, and then you can use your brain and you can determine which way works best for you. And again, that's the beauty of the Suresmile system, is they've given us multiple ways of doing what we want. Just like when you were in orthodontic school, you were probably taught multiple ways of moving teeth with wires and brackets. And with Suresmile, there's multiple ways that you can choose to move the teeth in the virtual world. So here we are. This is the stage models. It's a single stage view, and so this is stage 21. If you'll notice on the right side of the screen, there's a highlighted 21. So this is stage 21, and down at the lower it says we've checked the little button that says cumulative. And so what we're seeing on the screen here is the cumulative movements from stage 1 to stage 21. And so you can see there's a lot of torque and different rotation. This is Jody's case. And we moved the teeth, tremendous amount, buccolingually. That was kind of our limiting factor, was the buccolingual and the torque movements, some angulation changes as well. And so we divided that up in 21 stages. And so this is cumulative. And then you can also look at it a little bit differently. This is just a zoomed in version of that same slide we were just looking at. And so we've got the cumulative box checked down here, stage 21. And you can see all the various movements, the 6 different ways that you can move a tooth are highlighted over here, and each little box represents the cumulative movements of each individual tooth. So once I became really very comfortable looking at this little spreadsheet, almost with a glance, your mind becomes knowing kind of what's happening with that case. So just like when you look at a patient today in their mouth, you can kind of envision in your own mind what's going on. Same here, this spreadsheet offers you a tremendous capability to see in your mind, in your orthodontic brain, what's happening with the case. It's a fantastic feature. What I've clicked here now, if you notice on the lower, I've got the incremental box changed. So what this represents is at stage 21, so this is these movements represent the difference between stage 20 and stage 21. So for your aligner manufacturer and your staging, this type of information is very useful so that you can say, okay, that is a realistic movement that I can ask an aligner to make. 0.2 of a millimeter of mesial movement for these 3 teeth. And that is just the thickness of the aligner is more than that. So you can feel confident that you can move that, and this is something that you can program yourself, and so it's not something that the computer spits out. Here we are. So this is stage models. This is the multi-stage view, so it's a little bit different. So I'll just kind of familiarize you with this screen. So on the left here, we've clicked mesial distal. So what you're looking at here is stages 1 through 8, and you're looking at all the mesial distal movements that have occurred for every tooth, and this is cumulative. So through stage 8, or each stage actually one at a time, if you notice these numbers starting from the top and then they add up to 0.4, and so the cumulative is from top to bottom, right, 1 through 8, and each movement, this is all mesial distal movement only is what we're looking at, but I could click or highlight any of these other movements, any of the other 6 ways that a tooth can move, and a different screen is going to pop up. So if you say, well gosh, I can't move a tooth that far, then you can adjust it. And so we've clicked cumulative down here at the bottom, and this is just a blow-up view of the same slide. Again, this is mesial distal only, stages 1 through 8, and the cumulative adjustments for each tooth is listed here. So we asked the upper right one, mesial distal, to move 0.4 of a millimeter, right? So I think everybody gets the idea. Whereas the upper left 6, cumulatively moved 1.2 millimeters. So that's why we divided that up amongst eight stages. So these are just some great examples of various ways that you can go. Now this one, I clicked a different box. I clicked the incremental box. So this is going to show you, stage 1 is 0.1, stage 2 is 0.1, stage 3 is 0.1, stage 4 is 0.1. If you look at that, and it doesn't show the cumulative total, but just by clicking the button, you can go right back to that, and there it is. That's your cumulative. So you've got it, but you achieved your 0.4 movements by the 4th aligner, and then you just held it steady the whole way. So some really great functionality of the Suresmile Elementric software that allows the user to have really great control. So a stage timeline, this is just terminology that we've put into the system at Suresmile, is just another one of the views. So this allows you flexibility on when to do movements, and it somewhat automates some of the aligner staging manufacture. But again, you set the parameters, and you can also put in there how much. So if you want to move a tooth 0.3 millimeters in a certain plane of space, and you want to do that from aligner 6 to aligner 10, then you program that in, and the system does the rest. So this is stage models, a stage timeline. So again, all the various movements, rotation, torque, buccal, lingual, etc., all listed on the left. And this is a 21 stage timeline. Here on the left, we asked for rotations, for the rotations to start at aligner or stage 1 and to end by stage 6. So I can change that up or down to whatever number I want, and the amount of rotations is going to be divided up amongst however many I selected. I could choose it like I did on some of these others to change at different times. So these, the mesial distal and the posterior is going all the way through stage 21. And so again, total variation. I've got 1 selected here for most of these, but there are many cases where the starting point for these various movements will be at a totally different aligner, which is really simple to do once you have the software figured out. It's simple. And here's just a blow-up view of that same thing. So again, the starting point of when we want rotations to occur started at aligner 1, and it ended at aligner 6. And so that's the stage timeline feature. And so I've got another patient here for you, Emily, and I don't have any photographs of Emily to share with you, but I do have her diagnostic model. So I just want to quickly walk through, those various stage timelines and some of those other features and how we used the software for this one. So a fairly simple, straightforward case. Some crowding, some torque issues, a little bit of angulation. She's a full step class 2 on one side, on her left. We're not going to fix that. I'm not sure I'd want to fix that on her if we were doing braces. So She was very happy with her bite. She had a very stable occlusion. So we're going to stop short of creating a perfect result for her, but she's going to get an excellent result with an occlusion that works great for her. She'll be class 2 on finish on one side, class 1 on the other. So it's going to work great. So here she is. Okay, we just fast forwarded to the end. So again, this is the end result. So these are our virtually straight movements. This is where we started with the crooked teeth, and that's where we ended. So that's your first step. You create the ideal setup, just like you're doing a wax up the old time in dental school. Put the teeth together, and then you've got to read the software to determine, are any of those movements realistic? How can I make that really work? How many stages is it going to take for me to do that? And that's where the software really comes into play. So time point 1 is listed here. So that's the beginning. That's when we place the attachments. So it's important to know that in the Suresmile Elementrix platform, you can use attachments. And they've got a whole slew of attachments that you can choose from simple to complex attachments, multiple attachments on the same teeth, big attachments, little attachments. You can angulate them, orientate them, however you want. And it's fun. The attachments are great. I'm not a big fan of attachments in general, but you have them at your fingertips to apply to the teeth whenever you want them. So that's great. So here we are at stage 1. So for stage 1, I'm going to check the cumulative box here, but for stage 1, that represents all the movements. So you can see what we've plugged in. You're in the 0.1, 0.2 range, or 1 or 2 degrees of movement. So that would be for liner 1. So that's the difference between time point 0 and the first aligner, or the first stage. And here we are at time point 5, stage 5. So this is, again, cumulative, all of the movements that were incorporated into Emily's movements. And so we achieved her movements in the upper with 5 stages, 5 aligners, 5 models. And that's where we are with her. That's just a blow-up view showing, again, highlighted aligner number 5, stage 5 right here. And the cumulative is checked down here. And these are the cumulative amount of movements. The biggest movement she had was this 14. That's a rotation, a distal rotation of the upper right 1. She had some fairly large torque movements here, which, because we're orthodontic geniuses, we made sure that if we're going to move a tooth in the buccal direction, we're going to also torque the tooth the same way. So that works out great. Here we are, the same stage 5, but now I've checked the incremental box. And so this time it's just showing me the difference from stage 4 to stage 5. So in the clinic, if you're on stage 4 or 5 and you want to know, hey, what did we do in the last one? It's as simple as clicking the button and you know exactly what was built into that aligner. So this really helps you in the clinic a tremendous amount, and there's a lot of uses that you can use for that, whether it's to troubleshoot or to help the patient understand what's left to go in their treatment. So here we are, stage models upper. This is the single stage view. The final stage is number 6. So this is when we remove the attachments. So if you notice on the model up top here, the attachments are gone. And so this would be the 3D printed model that you might print to make your retainers. I can tell you that she only had the 2 attachments. So it's very simple in the lab to just smooth those off, and you don't need to print another model unless you just want to. You know, we like to be efficient and cost effective, so the models are the most expensive part of this process. So any time that we don't have to print a model, we choose not to. So in her case, we would probably just not print model 6 and just stay with 5, and then just smooth those off in the lab and just reuse that one as her retainer model, and that works just great. It really works super. So so back to that one. So here we are. You can print the model without the attachments, and that'll be a retainer, or smooth them off. And then again, this just shows all the cumulative movements, single stage, cumulative movements. It's got all the various movements that can happen with a tooth highlighted on the left, and you can see the cumulative amount of movements that happen with each tooth. And that's obviously from 5 to 6, there were no movements because that's the same model without the attachments. And here we are, the multi-stage view. If you'll notice on this one, I clicked the multi-stage feature here, so it's highlighting the mesiodistal. So from aligner 6. This is the cumulative movements from stage 1 to stage 6 in this case. And here are just a blow-up view of that same thing. Got multi-stage highlighted. I can click any of these boxes, mesiodistal, buccolingual, all the way across there that you can see. And it's got the various stages listed down vertically and every tooth horizontally. Again, these little charts become very easy to read. I hope I'm not making anybody too sleepy looking at all these numbers. And here we are with the incremental box checked for model number 6. And this shows, again, the difference between 5 and 6 is going to appear on the screen. Again, this is only in the mesiodistal section. And so here's our stage timeline. That's the one we were talking about earlier. We can set the parameters of when you want various movements to start or end. And here we wanted the rotations to start at aligner 2 because we were doing some expansion to allow for easier rotation. The torque started right away. The buccal movement started at the second one. You get the idea. So we did some expansion early on, and then we started with the rotation and the torque a little bit later. That's just an enlarged view of that same slide. And so the stage timeline allows you to set the parameters of when you want each movement to start and when you want each movement to end, and then the system just divides up the movements across time. And so at this point, hopefully we've got a few participants left, and we'd like to give the opportunity for questions. And I found this fun sign close to my house and thought I'd take a fun picture. So that's where we're at. So we'd like to open up to Mally to bring up any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Wise. I have just a few questions from the audience. And again, if you have any questions, we're running a little short of time, but you can put your questions in the question box, and if we don't get to them, they will be answered by email. And remember to write down DrJohn@wiseorthodontics.com if you do have any other questions. But now we do have a question. One of the questions is, what is the cost to export stages to be printed locally?
If we're going to export a stage to print locally, there's no cost for that. So each of the stages, you can choose to do as many or as few of those as you want. So you can have as many stages as you could possibly want. Okay. So there's no cost.
Okay, there you go. Okay, can you scan with brackets and have them digitally removed?
You absolutely can. There's no additional cost for that as well. So if you've got a patient that you're doing a combo treatment on, you're starting with braces and moving to aligners, for example, at the end of treatment, if you want to present the patient with the retainers the same day, the same moment that you take the braces off, you've got that capability because you can remove the brackets easily from the models.
Okay. Is there a limit to the number of stages?
The limit is only what the orthodontist determines, so there's absolutely no limit. That's one of the beauties of the in-your-office situation is you've got the capability to treat easy cases, hard cases. It's totally up to you. No limit.
And what is the cost to do a refinement?
A refinement is similar to starting the case from scratch. So each time you want to do any type of a refinement, you need a new scan. So you take an intraoral scan and then upload that into the Suresmile or Elementric system, and that costs $45. $45.
Okay. And one more question we have time for. How many aligner companies are in the orthodontic marketplace now that Invisalign patents have expired?
I'm sorry, I couldn't get that last.
With this question just came in. How many aligner companies are in the orthodontic marketplace now that Invisalign patents have expired?
You know, there's a lot. I don't know the exact answer to that question, but I know some of the big players in the orthodontic world, companies like 3M, American. I mean, there's multiple companies that are sprouting up every day. And obviously, we've got all these direct-to-consumer companies. The earlier slide I had showed at least 4 of those, and I think there's some popping up in Europe. So I'm guessing, total guess, what time is it? It's probably 20 to 30. I mean, there's a lot of them, but those patents are expiring. But there are many, many more patents that Invisalign is currently adding. Somebody spoke about those, not a patent ledge, but it's a patent mountain. Invisalign has a lot of patents, and they're continuing to add more and more to their armamentarium. They're not done with patents for a long ways.
Okay, we really don't have any more time to do a lot of questions, but we do have our special offer. So now we would like to show the special offer in your handout box. Click the link in the handout box to provide us with information on how to access this offer. But the Elemetric special offer is the registration fee is just $500, reduced from $1,750. That includes complimentary aligner design training, and you receive a $500 product credit once the training has been completed. So look at our handout box and download that special offer, and let us know how to contact you. I would like to thank everyone for your questions. I'd like to, because we've run out of time, if we did not get to your question, we'll answer it after the webinar via email. Thank you all again for attending this webinar, and a special thank you to Dr. Wise for a very comprehensive presentation, and to our sponsor for this webinar, Suresmile by Orometrics. If you have a question, personal private question for Dr. Wise, go to drjohn@wiseorthodontics.com. Thank you, and have a good evening.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.